welcome to FAB News today. And today's topic of discussion is impressions management.
So, what is impressions management? There are multiple definitions of this phenomena. Huimstra defined it as a field of study within social psychology concerned with studying how individuals present themselves in order to be perceived favourably by others.
The foundation and the defining principles of impressions management were created by Erving Goffman in 1956. Impressions management theory states that one tries to alter one's perception according to one's goals. So, in other words, the theory is about how individuals wish to present themselves, but in a way that satisfies their own needs and goals. It also strongly links with agency theory, as well as overlapping with legitimacy theory too.
So, in terms of corporate reporting, it's more the practice of covertly manipulating material in the corporate document to distort the perceptions of audiences. For example, the use of positive words to demonstrate potentially less positive actions within the financial statements, creating an image to investors, employees, and suppliers, as well as any other stakeholders concerned. As Schlenker mentioned, people would consciously or unconsciously attempt to control images that are projected in real or imagined social interactions. This is crucial for businesses as their reputation is a main aspect of their success, and managers will need to be able to best present their company in order to attract the best investors, customers, and suppliers. It also helps to deal with potential bad publicity that could arise and how to minimize the negative reactions that could occur from it.
So, why do companies engage in the practices of impressions management? There are multiple reasons to that. According to Huimstra, impressions management would typically arise in the situations when norms and values of the business are not consistent with those of society. This will cause managers to basically re-establish their social legitimacy. As the sociological perspective is concerned with the role of corporate narrative reports in demonstrating their organizational similarity to norms and values, it makes no assumptions regarding the instrumental rationality of organizational audiences, and thus their susceptibility to impressions management.
Managers are the face of a company, so they're accountable to the audiences of the business, mainly shareholders, but also stakeholders, and they take responsibility for their decisions and actions. The corporate reports, and particularly the annual report, are the main accountability documents that address any queries and concerns that external and sometimes internal stakeholders may have. In the context of corporate reporting, impressions management would appear during the questioning of the reporting process. Corporate narrative documents, or financial statements, reflect the company's managerial performance. So it's important for managers to impress shareholders and stakeholders, since they're the ones who would care about the decisions and actions of the business. Managers would engage in impression management in order to prevent undesirable consequences, such as, for example, negative share price movements or unfavourable analyst reports.
The evidence of impressions management usually lies in the strategies which managers learn to adapt in order to present a version of events aimed at winning social and material rewards and avoiding possible sanctions. This is a crucial accounting component of the accountability process of the business. This usually leads to the use of cognitive or egocentric bias. Researchers Nee and Zuckerman suggest that people tend to take credit for the success. However, they would reject responsibility for failures. Managers can provide biased information regarding their performance just to enhance their own self-esteem. The purpose of this bias is to maintain, protect, or extend businesses' beliefs about themselves or the corporate environment, which would be otherwise rejected by the public. Oh, sorry, we are just receiving some breaking news about Tesco. And the public has been informed by the Food Safety Authority of Ireland that after testing a range of various frozen beef burgers and ready meals from Tesco, the presence of horse DNA has been found in it.
Okay, so today we have Teng in the studio with us.
And Teng happens to be an expert on impressions management techniques. So, Teng, can you tell us about them?
No worries. So there are a plethora of techniques managers could use for impressions management. There are two types, positive and negative. Positive techniques are seldomly used, while negative techniques are more common. These techniques consist of apologies, excuses, associations, exemplifications, supplications, and much more. The ones mentioned now are techniques the Tesco managers have used to attempt to maintain a brand image.
And can you please elaborate on the techniques that they have used?
Yeah, sure. So one technique is exemplification, and this can be a method of portraying one's moral worthiness, where they try to prove their sincerity, dedication, and responsibility towards their work. In a way, portraying themselves as being the superior one. Next is association, so it's enhancing or protecting one's image by managing information about people and things which one is associated. The other common one is the apology technique, so it is admitting responsibility for an undesirable event and simultaneously seeking to get pardon for their action. Another common one is excuses, so there are explanations of a crisis-creating event aimed at minimizing the apparent severity of the predicament. Rhetorical manipulation is when a company blames their negative performance due to circumstances outside the control of managers.
Okay, thank you so much, Thang.
Okay, so our next expert couldn't be with us in the studio today, so she will be streaming live from Singapore.
Thank you, Nina and Chrissy. Now, trying to salvage the situation, Tesco's launched an internal investigation and located the origins of the Horsemeat, the Silver Crest, a meat supplier based in Ireland, where they have discovered the meat used was originated from outside of UK and Ireland, and has since dropped them as a supplier. In news statements and press conferences that followed, Tesco's announced the introduction of a system of DNA testing across the meat products, with a promise to purchase more meat from the UK farmers, and plans to install cameras with suppliers' factories. This is an excellent example of Tesco's managers utilizing the exemplification technique, portraying their responsibility and commitment to their work, by showing that they were trying to correct the mistake and were determined in making sure that it does not happen again. In addition, the news statement also reported on how the MPs welcomed Tesco's response to the situation, in particular the DNA testing, with Environmental Minister David Heath saying that supermarkets have a legal and moral responsibility to ensure they know where their products come from, further solidifying Tesco's responsible image. Further utilizing the amplification technique, Tesco's manager enforces the superior image aspect, stating in a press conference that while already being the biggest customer of UK agriculture, they could do more by having the supply of fresh chicken, frozen and ready meals to be fully sourced from the UK in the future. In the months after the scandal, Tesco sought to change its stance from crisis management to proactive reputation management, having recognized the scandal as an opportunity for organizational change and as a method to change the public's perception of the business. Now, thank you for listening to me, and over to the studio.
And now, over to Avika.
While coming to issues of image protection, in addition to defending themselves from negative press, companies usually use self-preserving strategies in order to dissociate themselves from the negative consequences while simultaneously attempting to gain credit for their positive endeavors. Less than a month after the scandal was publicized, Tesco's CEO Philip Clark released a video in which he announced Tesco's intentions to put into place a better control system in the future, in addition to sources from suppliers closer to home and building long-standing relationships with them. They also announced plans to launch a website where customers could easily track where their food was being sourced from, in an effort to increase transparency and reassure customers of how important trust is to Tesco, proving to the public their sincerity and dedication in providing high-quality service. This is another example of Tesco using the exemplification strategy to highlight their moral worthiness, in addition to what Naomi just touched on previously. The mega retailer also used association strategy in an attempt to enhance their image by managing information about the causes they were associated with, focusing mainly on three aspects, which were creating opportunities for employment, reducing food waste, and trading responsibly.
And now, over to Anis, reporting from local Tesco.
So hello everyone, I'm reporting live from Tesco, and today I'm going to talk about the negative implications and negative techniques used by Tesco in terms of the case of the horsemeat scandal. So there are a few negative techniques used by Tesco, which include apologies, excuses, as well as rhetorical manipulation. So many people have difficulty apologizing. so they often view an apology as an admission of guilt. They become defensive automatically when charged with a mistake, even if they know they're in the wrong. Although attempts at apologies can come across as weak and insincere, it's a skill that firms develop to rebuild reputation as well as to restore trust. In a huge case like Tesco's that affected thousands and thousands of consumers, which could include you, yes, you, a public apology was made immediately by first admitting the mistake on their part without any denying. Next, Tesco placed full page adverts, as you can see, in a number of national newspapers saying sorry directly to consumers for selling beef burgers containing horse meat. Tesco also said it would offer refunds on anyone who bought the products affected with no proof of purchase necessary beyond packaging. Another technique used to lessen the burden and to minimize negative repercussions was definitely by giving an excuse. Who doesn't like giving excuses, right? So, although this may not be too obvious in the case of the horsemeat scandal, following the FSAI's findings, Tesco carried out its own investigation and also found traces of both pork and horse DNA present in its burgers. To blame and also to divert the attention to the whole industry indirectly, Tesco said,
We found traces of horse DNA, though not in the amounts found by the FSAI. We also found traces of pork DNA. We do not contest the FSAI earlier results, but we want to emphasize, however, that we are talking about very, very small amounts of pork DNA. This reflects the industry-wide problem of cross-contamination at plants that make both beef and pork products.
Reporting from outside Tesco, Tesco also tried to imply that the horsemeat scandal had affected all major retailers to lessen their burden of the blame by running an ad. However, this strategy backfired and the ad was banned by the Advertising Standards Agency as it was considered misleading as rival retailers as the like of Sainsbury's, Marks and Spencer, and Waitrose were never found to have sourced food contaminated with horse meat. I will now be talking about another impression management tactic, which is rhetorical manipulation, where languages are used to create a distorted impression of the underlying truth. The rhetorical device of repetition is common, for example, good news being repeated but not the bad news. This method usually used to emphasize honesty and truthfulness of the company by diverting their responsibilities to others. For example, Tesco focuses the public's attention on the core grocery business, which had remained in growth, adding it was already replacing much of the space previously allocated for consumer electronics in its 850 bigger stores with more food, stationery, housewares, and clothing. By doing so, Tesco divert their customers' attention to the improved service rather than the horsemeat scandal. In terms of their post-scandal sales and performance slump, Tesco addresses that the horsemeat scandal was the main reason for the decline in its UK sales by 5% from March to June. Thank you.
On the 15th and 16th of January 2013, when the scandal was reported, the share price of Tesco, which is seen on the blue line on the graph, can be seen to drop as the share price of Sainsbury's, the pink line, goes up, showing the immediate impact of the Horsemeat scandal being reported. The Guardian described Tesco plc's share price as having plummeted in January. It could also be suggested that the effect of the scandal may have been long-term, as following the scandal, the shares of Tesco plc saw the UK's largest supermarket stay below 30% for the 3 months to 17th of March, a level it hadn't fallen below for 8 years. Competitors such as Sainsbury's benefited from the scandal, which saw its sales increase 6.2% over the 3 months following, compared with the same period a year earlier. This potentially gradual impact can be seen by the closing of the difference in share price between the two companies, and by the 19th of April, Sainsbury's share price even overtook Tesco's.
Anna does make a valid point on how damaging the horsemeat scandal was on Tesco's share price. However, Tesco's fast-reacting impression management techniques used to the scandal, for example, on the 17th of January where Tesco put out a public apology in the national UK papers mentioned earlier, allowed Tesco to maintain its share price, meaning that the share price did not suffer as much as it may have had these techniques not been used. Thanks.